So before we get started, I want to give you guys a little heads up. This episode is going to feature a lot of talk about cryptocurrency, blockchains, and NFTs. Now, I won't go into specifics on each of these things, but I do want to explain what a non-fungible token, aka an NFT, is. For those that don't know, NFTs, or non-fungible tokens, are a unit of data stored on a blockchain that proves a digital asset is unique. It's kind of like a digital receipt or certificate that shows that it's yours. Why does this matter? Well, this is one of the few ways to show that something that's purely digital, like a skin in League of Legends, is entirely yours. And with a public blockchain network, everyone on the internet could see that it was yours. Mythical Games' first title, Blanko's Block Party, was featured at E3 this year, and one of the key features of the game is that the items and even the skin of the character you play as are all NFTs and uniquely yours. I got the chance to talk to Rudy Koch, who is the co-founder of the company. We talked about their latest game, Blanko's Block Party, true ownership in video games, and the power of collecting. So, today I have with me Rudy Koch, who is formerly of Activision Blizzard, who worked on some really exciting projects such as World of Warcraft, Call of Duty, and Skylanders. And today, we're going to talk about his current project at Mythical Games called Blanko's Block Party. Now, what exactly is a Blanko?
Hi, Jeff. Thanks for having me. So Blanko is a character in our game. It's a digital vinyl toy. It's a character in our game that you control. It's a character that you collect in our game. They're NFTs. If you've played Blanko's Block Party, if you go to blankos.com, you might notice that the characters, the Blankos, that's what we call them, look awfully like vinyl toys. And that's because the game was inspired by the vinyl toy industry. We're nerds, we're collectors. I have a big wall of vinyl toys behind me that you can't see. But we were inspired to use vinyl toys as sort of the setting for the game for a number of reasons. One, it just is a cool world, reimagining what physical vinyl toys could look like in a digital world, what a universe of vinyl toys could look like in a digital world was fun to think about. But also, the stuff that I'm sure we're going to talk about a little bit more later is, the NFT side of things of what we're doing in the game is that, some of the paradigms around scarcity and collectability that, are emerging from blockchain NFTs seemed like such a great fit for vinyl toys because, vinyl toys has those concepts baked in. So yeah, a Blanko is a vinyl toy.
Awesome. Yeah, I definitely have gone into the vinyl toy craze. Not too bad. I've got a couple Funko Pops, nothing crazy.
I do too much research, and I say that in quotes. You can't see it, but I've done lots of research.
My biggest thing is I'm trying to get the 10-inch Bulbasaur Funko Pop. I've got the other two of the first gen starters, but the third one's like $80, and that's like triple what I paid for the first two, and I just can't commit to that price point.
Well, there you go. I mean, they have value. Again, it's why we felt they were such a great fit for what we were doing.
So what was the initial concept for the game? I've read some things saying it was a tech demo, others saying it's a marketing sort of thing. What's the real story behind that?
Yeah, well, we got into the space 3 years ago, excited about, what blockchain and NFTs were bringing about, and this was back when it wasn't cool to talk about these concepts. We saw a real opportunity, to introduce some of these cool concepts into the gaming world. We come from a deep background in mass market games, and for us, we got excited about what NFTs were potentially introducing. And so we set about building a game that sort of was a reflection of our vision for how we saw, blockchain and NFTs fitting into the mass market gaming world. We didn't want it to just be an experiment. What we wanted to do was take what we knew best from our experience building AAA mass market games. We wanted to bring those sensibilities into the space, and we wanted to look at NFTs through that lens. And so for us, the game serves two purposes. One is it's to showcase that vision we have of where NFTs and blockchain fit, and from a mass market product perspective or a mass market game perspective. But it also allowed us to sort of then use a real world use case to build out all the um, tech and the engine behind it all to be able to integrate with blockchain, with NFTs, to have a game economy that was based around NFTs. This was something that we've spent a considerable amount of time and energy building and thinking about, and having to solve problems that are really quite unique to this space. And then on top of that, we wanted to build a marketplace around it where, the ultimate vision here is that players get to participate in the economy by owning the items that they acquire, and they can then go and sell those to other players. And we've just recently released the closed alpha for our marketplace. And so Blanko's really is, that sort of mass market AAA game experience intended to showcase the vision and allow us to build out this whole ecosystem.
I think the concept behind it is really interesting because it gives you the freedom of not only, owning these unique digital assets, but also the freedom of making the game you want to play, which is sort of how the gameplay comes around.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, these, the idea of ownership is really exciting to us. We've seen, the idea. Well, firstly, the idea of player to player digital item transactions. That's not something new to games. That's not something that NFTs and blockchain introduced. That's been going on for decades. They've often been called gray markets because they've been illegitimate, sort of outside of the game ecosystem. But every popular game has had gray markets. I can recall back to the late 90s, as far back as then, grinding out items in games and going on eBay and selling them for real money. That's only grown with the advent of free to play, where the entire monetization model is based off of in-game items. And so what's clear is that the demand is there. The demand is there from players. They want to transact in this way, but we've never as an industry allowed that to really embrace it. And so NFTs allow us to embrace that and say, hey, this thing you guys want to do, you clearly value the items that you earn in game. You clearly value that stuff. Let's bring it into the fold. Let's build for it. Let's design for it. Let's create a game that sort of really leans into that, and let you buy and sell as part of the game experience. And ultimately, why I get excited about that is because, as a gamer myself, I spend an incredible amount of time and energy in these worlds and in these games, and money in these games, and I don't get any of that value back. The value goes all straight to developer. Sure, I have a fun time with my friends, and that's important for sure. But beyond that, especially in today's sort of, where games are today, where it's all about open worlds and sandbox games, and customization and creation is such a big part of it. We want players to be able to benefit off the tremendous value they bring to the games that they play. And this is the way we do it, is through ownership of the digital space. We give them ownership of digital items and the value that they bring.
One thing I do want to just sort of like touch on a little bit is, how much do you think you've learned from working on Skylanders back when that was, the huge big thing in the gaming sphere, and what can you take to make sure that you don't fall into the same mistakes with this game that you did with Skylanders?
Yeah, you know what? So we worked on a really cool mini game, mobile game for the Skylanders franchise, and it was a card. It was basically a card game, a digital CCG. We were inspired by the CCGs that were coming out at the time, and so we thought, hey, let's do one of our own with the Skylanders brand for the younger generation. And one of the things that we did that was different was we did actual physical cards as well. Physical cards, because it's in line with the whole Toys to Life concept that Skylanders had, was you could go to Toys R Us, buy a pack of physical cards, and come back and scan it with your tablet or smartphone, and it would unlock the digital version in your game, and that would be part of your inventory. And we joke about it now. This was back in 2016. We joke about it now. This was basically true ownership and NFTs before blockchain, right? We were we didn't know it at the time, but that's exactly what we were building. The idea was that I could scan, if I scanned a card, that card was now locked to me. It was mine, and nobody else could scan that version. What we've learned since is that, blockchain and NFTs have now made that whole concept extremely accessible. We see a world where any game can have this kind of NFT based economy where true ownership and player ownership can exist in any game, and blockchain NFTs have made it such a low barrier. And people, when especially with a CCG, people, if you look at other examples, physical examples like Magic the Gathering, there's a very healthy secondary market. People want to trade the stuff that they have. That you might have something that I want or need or like, and vice versa. And so
I know several people who make a good living off of selling Magic cards.
Well, there you go. Again, what we're doing here is we're taking what already exists out there, where that gamers and collectors are already used to, and we're just building. We're leaning into it and we're embracing it. And we don't see blockchain or NFTs as sort of like this revolutionary like thing that's coming in and completely upending the industry. We see it as an evolution to what's already happening. It's just going, hey, instead of you guys doing this outside of the ecosystem, and I know from personally working on World of Warcraft, we would ban you, like if we caught you engaging in these gray markets. And not only that, if these gray markets were the Wild West. You could get ripped off. There was fraud everywhere. The way we see it is with blockchain NFTs, we're going, hey, we see you. We know that you guys want to do this, you want to engage in the economy in this way. Now we're going to make it a safe place. We're going to make it part of the design of the game, and we're going to lean into it and allow you to do that. And you don't need to be worried about getting ripped off. You don't need to worry about not getting banned by the developer, because we're all in this economy together.
So I want to get back to talking about the NFT parts in a little bit, but I do want to talk about the gameplay especially. So what makes Blanko's Block Party stand out against some of the other games that make games or games as a service sort of thing, like Roblox, Crata, Core, and things like that?
Yeah, so we wanted to really make it, creativity as accessible as possible. I think, that is definitely what's important to players today. Is, like I said, they want to be part of experiences that they have a lot of control over customizing. Their social networks are their friends, their social networks are in these digital environments with them. Their identities are in these digital environments. Now they spend a lot of time there, and so it's important for them to be able to have some control over customizing. So where we wanted to do was lean into that in as accessible as possible way as we could. And so, you mentioned sort of a build mode earlier. You can come into the game as a player. You can, buy a Blanko, customize your avatar with all kinds of accessories, customize your identity, and how you look, which is step one. You can jump into mini games. Currently, we have like a shooter mini game. We have a race sort of type mini game and a collection type mini game. But you can also create your own levels. And we got really excited about this because, again, going back to the accessible thing, we wanted anybody to feel like they could come in and create something. And so there's no coding involved. There's nothing, complex about building levels. You could basically drag and drop a start and finish line from your inventory onto the map, and it knows, okay, you want to build a race. Cool. And you can then drop a bunch of other objects to create the track. And then if you want, you could then drop a bunch of weapons around. And now it's like, oh, you want a racer with some shooting? Okay, cool. And we actually have a few of those. We had some folks create some of our community create a level where one team is racing and one team is shooting, and the shooters have to knock the racers off the track. And it ended up being a really creative, fun mode.
Interesting.
So really excited about that in particular, because, as we've seen, we get to unlock the creativity of the community by giving them the right tools. They're going to come up with stuff we never even thought of.
Yeah, of course. It's always just fun to see how creative the internet can be when it comes to tools like this. And you never know what they're going to come up with, whether it's something as super simple and just fun, or something that's just incredibly robust, and you never think of, wow, you can make that in this game. Like Minecraft's Redstone, for instance. When it first came out, I was like, okay, cool. You can make some simple logic gates. And now you can see people who are playing Minecraft inside Minecraft, and it blows my mind how that works.
Yeah, oh, totally, and it's amazing, and that's what we love tapping into is, and what that does is it allows the community to create amazing experiences for each other. And I think you get to show off your creativity to the community, to the players on there, and create some really cool stuff. And Again, yeah. I mean, what's clear, over the last 10 years is we've seen gamers and players wanting to get closer to the games that they love in a variety of ways, and you can see this as evidence with streaming and content creation. These are folks who don't make the game, but they're so passionate about the games, they've made it their living, to create content and to stream. And, this was something that organically appeared. We never would have guessed it would have happened. And now then esports happened as well. We've got players becoming fans and pro players and creating this whole ecosystem. And again, they're not making the game, but they're really integral parts of the ecosystem. And so now we see, this sort of building and ownership being sort of like a very important step of players. They want to be part of this. They want to be creative. And, so that's what we wanted to lean into with Blankos.
Are you able to like code things into the game as a player, similar to how Roblox incorporates Lua, or is it more of a drag and drop sort of system?
Yeah, it's all drag and drop. You can do it with a keyboard and mouse, or you can do it with a controller, and that was super important. No coding involved, no Lua, nothing. We wanted again to be accessible to a wider audience, so anybody could feel like they could come in and build, and that is exactly what we're seeing. We're seeing more people be creative. Versus let's say a Roblox where it's a little bit more niche to be a builder.
Okay, awesome. I like that answer. That's really good. What kind of games are users creating so far in the beta? Have you guys seen any like huge surprises in the scope of the game?
We've seen people spend an incredible amount of time building levels. I mean, it's amazing what they come up with. I mean, we've given them objects and different types of objects, and we've just seen them build simple, really engaging, fast-paced shooter levels to we've had one, we did like a winter build challenge earlier in the year, and someone used all the objects to put together a giant dragon that you raced on. And this was not something we don't have a dragon object, but people grabbed a whole bunch of stuff and just like made it,
and they made one themselves.
And I'm like playing this game, and I remember, wow, I'm racing across the back of a dragon right now. This is awesome, and so we've seen, and like I said, there's people now mashing up game modes too, which is really cool to see. Again, that shooter racer is really adds a whole new dimension to the gameplay. And so we've seen a lot of really creative stuff, and we've seen a large part of the audience get in and start building.
So how are you guys supporting the community of users who want to make these unique experiences in Blanko's block party?
We've had a few challenges, build challenges, that where we've had our community come together and rally around a specific theme and build levels around that. And then we've sort of recognized them for their contributions. The best levels get a shout out and get prominence in the game and on social media. We've got a sort of a party finder kind of a menu in our game where you can get featured with your level. And, as we sort of get through early access, we look to make this whole thing, more rewarding for builders. That's really important to us. And what we're playing around with is, what kind of rewards can we give these builders, the really good builders? What kind of rewards? I mean, obviously recognition is huge. People love that, but what are there other rewards that we can offer? NFTs potentially, is something that we've been discussing. Because that has real world value. It's something you could sell later. Right. Maybe there's some ultra rare NFTs that you could earn. These are discussions we're having. We're trying to figure all this out, but also, from an algorithmic perspective as well, we want to make sure that levels that people are building are getting visibility from the right players. The players who really love racers should 100% see that dragon level when they go to play, right? And we've got like tens of thousands of levels already created by players, which is amazing, right? And so suddenly it gets very quickly it becomes a lot of levels that you have to search through. So we're working hard to figure out ways to really showcase the people's creativity and make sure that players who like racers or shooters are seeing the best levels they're stoked on.
What are some of the challenges that come with making a game that's supposed to let others make game?
Well, there's the obvious one, which is the build tools could be used for evil to create certain shapes that we wouldn't want you to. With UGC, there's always that risk.
Of course.
Yes. And that's stuff that we obviously You can report if you see anything like that, and we'll remove it. We might even ban the player if it's a really bad case. But obviously that's in every game where UGC is involved that I've been involved in.
Of course,
That's
yeah.
been a thing. But again, it does come back to us is how do we make it as accessible as possible, right? Like, again, like when you can look at games like Minecraft and say, wow, people, you can get into that game and you can start creating right away. And that's what I love about, the accessibility of a game like Minecraft. And so we wanted to really optimize for that accessibility with the build mode and make sure that everybody felt like they can come in and create an experience that they were proud of. And again, I go back to, making sure that people can see your stuff. That's really important as a creator. You want to make sure there's ways for you to show off this hard work and creativity you've put into building a cool level, So those are the challenges that we're even now with, in early access, we're still optimizing and figuring out, how to basically recognize builders, how to reward them, how to make sure their levels are seen.
What was E3 like for you guys with the first all digital E3 event ever? This is not your first E3, but this is the first all digital E3 for you.
Yeah, I mean, it was awesome. We were really stoked that it was back. I think last year there was a lot of uncertainty and it didn't happen in the way that it traditionally happens. And so we were wondering what would happen this year. And we were so happy that it all came together and they really created this sort of concentrated online event. And it felt like it was an E3, even though it was all virtual. But what was cool about virtual too, because it was virtual, we got to play around with a new format of presenting. Usually the E3 is you get up on stage, you show a trailer, you talk about the game, and you bask in the glory. But this time we had to submit, basically a presentation, and we decided to get really creative about it. And the marketing team, Mythical, did an amazing job of creating a really unique expose on presenting who we are and what Blanko's is. It was kind of like this documentary style narrative that I was really stoked on. So we're really excited. We got to announce, the early access at E3 in a really creative way. We got to announce some of the partnerships that we've done with Blanko's that I'm super stoked about with Burberry and Deadmau5 and Marathon Clothing and some amazing artists. So all in all, we're really, really happy.
Yeah, it was truly very much a different event than what it has been the previous years, but still fun and still engaging for me as my first E3 on the other side, and it was still really enjoyable.
Yeah. I mean, I was really, really stoked on how it all planned out. And it's this week. It feels like it feels like I'm talking about something that was a month away, but
it was a couple days ago.
It was a couple of days ago. Yeah, so much has been going on. It's just been great.
Yeah, it was really, really enjoyable. So let's talk about the one big thing, the NFTs. How does one actually own an item in Blanko's Block Party?
Yeah, it's a great question. So, in any game where you acquire items, they go into your inventory, and Blanko's is no different than that. It's built like any other game. The difference here is that if your item is an NFT, then there's some extra information stored about that item on a private blockchain that we manage, and that information basically includes who owns it, what serial number is it, because we have each of our items has a serial number. So if you're a diehard collector, if you collect comics or collectibles in the physical world, you might be familiar with limited runs where you've got number 1 of 500.
Right.
We've brought that into the digital world, so it shows your serial number and it shows the maximum quantity. So how many were actually out into the released out into the wild. Some of the items that have a very small limit of maybe 3,000, or we have actually released a 1 of 1, which means that there's only one person who owns that version, that Blanko, that skin. And so the blockchain tracks all of this stuff, because then what we can do is then with the marketplace uses that data to be able to facilitate transactions. So not to get too nerdy or technical here, but we can use that information and say, okay, Rudy owns this because the blockchain says he does. we can have confidence that when Rudy goes to try and sell it, that it's actually his and he's allowed to sell it, right? And then when I sell it to you, Jeff, then on the blockchain we change the ownership to Jeff, and the blockchain is basically the source of truth when it comes to who owns what.
Right.
The thing that's great is that we can use some of the things like scarcity I've mentioned a couple of times. This is I think this is a really cool concept, something that we haven't been able to do in games really effectively before is do limited quantity stuff. And so, let's say we say, okay, this Blanko we're releasing tomorrow, there's only ever going to be 500 of them. When they're sold out, they're gone forever. The only way to ever buy one, if you missed out and you really want one, is to buy it off another player. And the blockchain manages that. The blockchain knows. And so if we'll never re-release it. We couldn't, the blockchain would know and wouldn't be able to do that. The other thing that I'll mention too that's kind of neat is that it's not just about items that you buy. And this is what really, in my opinion, really is the exciting part of where we're going with all of this, is that the items that you grind or earn in game can also be NFTs. We had we've had a few. One as example was a Twitch drop that you watched our Twitch stream and you got a free Blanko. This I can't remember exactly the price, but I think one sold on the secondary market for $100 and wow. $160, sorry. And that is what we're calling play to earn, which from what we believe is sort of the next evolution of the game monetization. We've had retail games, and then we transitioned into free to play, and we believe the future is the next 10 years we're going to see play to earn dominate, where you can literally go in and grind out items and sell them for real money. And this again is saying, hey, as players, we want you to benefit from the value, the time, the energy you spend in our game.
And it's interesting that you think that play to earn could be viable in the future, because for me, I'm a long time MMO player. I played WoW, I played Ragnarok Online, I played Guild Wars, I played a lot of games, and all of these companies are always very strict on that gray black market. You can't sell gold, you can't sell items, you can't sell your account. Me as a player, I want to do those things. I want to sell my account. I quit playing WoW years ago. Yeah. I don't want to use that anymore. Why can't I sell it? But then I don't know how to word this properly. How can you convince these studios to change that terms of service, to change their entire idea around and not break these digital economies?
Yeah, I mean that's a great question. I mean, these games, there's a couple of ways to answer that. One is, these games weren't necessarily designed from the ground up to support those economies, and when they started to, these gray markets started to show up, there wasn't really any kind of, sense of like, well, how would we, how would we embrace these? What would we do? It was just seen as a thorn in the side of the industry, right? It was just, hey, okay, it's not part of our design, it's not part of our game. Let's go and just start banning players, right? And that's just the way, the game industry became comfortable with that. That was just the way they dealt with it. And, the way, from our perspective, I mean, not from our perspective, the reality is that these gray markets have only grown. I mean, you can pick any popular game, go on eBay, and you can find items, right? Like, it's just
of course, how
it is, right? And World of Warcraft is a perfect example of a massive gray market, right? So we go, so the typical, the current stance has been always, let's just fight against these gray markets. And we've come around and said, hey, wait a minute, maybe there's another way to deal with these things, right? Like maybe there's a way we can embrace them, right? And I think that was a hard thing to do before blockchain came along. I think it was a hard thing to propose. Blockchain is so efficient at managing this kind of economy, and NFTs are so perfect for embracing these kind of economies that it's kind of like the right time. But you're right. I mean, it's not a silver bullet. Just because we have NFTs, it doesn't mean everybody's suddenly going to, drop what they're doing. So from our perspective, it's really about the players. The players have always wanted to do this. And I think once they start to get into these, the Blankos and the NFT economy and start to realize, wait a minute, Everything that I've been doing in gray markets, I can do legitimately here. They're going to want that in any game that they play. I mean, you've mentioned it yourself. You've got all this stuff that you wish you could sell. I mean, I'm a hoarder when it comes to MMOs. Like I hate getting rid of stuff because like I just I hang on to it or I have to delete it, right? And I hang on to it until it's completely useless to me, right? Now you don't, with NFTs, you don't have that problem. You can go, okay, I'm done with this stuff. I'm going to sell it. Or, I've got something that everybody wants. I have some stuff in World of Warcraft that is very valuable now because of how rare it is. And, just imagine how amazing it would be for me, especially how much time and energy I've spent on the games that I've played to be able to go, instead of just deleting this item because I'm out of bag space, I can actually sell it and make some money and put that back into the game, which is kind of cool.
It is a really neat concept, and I would like to see a future where that is a reality, but I don't think it will come the next 5 years, maybe the next 10 years, but not quite yet, I don't think.
I think it's coming faster than we think. I think what's been interesting is that we didn't expect the NFTs to hit mainstream. Non-fungible token. I mean, who uses that word in a sentence, right? Like, and suddenly over the last 3 or 4 months, everybody's been talking about it. I've been getting emails from friends and relatives who are like, "Hey, have you heard of NFTs?" And I'm like, "Yes, I have." And it's been on SNL. So suddenly there's conversation around it. Suddenly people are paying attention to it. And that's, I think you're going to be surprised. And again, all it will take is for gamers to get in and realize that, hey, wait a minute, I can benefit from the time that I put into these games, and then going and saying, hey, this is what we want. This is what we want as players. And I think we'll see more and more coming out over the next year or two, at least announcements I would expect, because of the attention on the NFTs right now, of other teams that are going to start to see the same thing. Because here's the deal, you talk to any team that's had a popular game, everybody knows the pain of gray markets. Everybody knows it, right? And so it's not a difficult conversation to have. And so, we've taken it upon ourselves, for better or for worse. It's been a crazy, wild ride, to sort of help open the door for everybody. We're excited. We're excited to play that role.
Awesome. That was a really good answer. I like that. So one of the big crucial key points of blockchain technology is that they are decentralized. But is this blockchain for Blanko's block party, sorry, actually decentralized?
So there's a couple of things when it comes to blockchain. One is there is sort of like Ethereums and Bitcoins, the sort of the public blockchains. These are blockchains that are completely decentralized. Then there are other types of blockchain. We have one that's a private chain. And what that basically is we're taking a blockchain and we're hosting it ourselves and managing it ourselves. And that was really important to us to do because with a game like Blanko's that we wanted to, appeal to the mass market, we wanted to make sure that we could scale our infrastructure and our game, our game appropriately as our audience grew, And so for us, having that sort of being able to manage the private chain was really important to growth for us. Right now, it's not decentralized. It's one node. It's just us. We call it a proof of authority chain, which again, not to get too technical, but for us, what it does is it gets the economy going. It allows us to start producing NFTs,
right?
And over time, our plan is to sort of lean more into decentralized chains and move in that direction. Our philosophy has always been take all of these concepts and look at it through traditional mass market games, and so we haven't sort of like just gone and jumped off a cliff here with these concepts. And it's I'm an excitable guy. It's really easy for me to get excited about technology and want to just run. And we've had to go, wait a minute, let's do this step by step. Let's introduce these concepts slowly. Let's get people doing, comfortable with NFT economies. That makes a ton of sense because, again, they're already wanting to do this kind of stuff. And then over time, let's introduce more and more concepts. And there's lots of cool stuff coming down the road that we're always looking at and discussing. It's just a matter of like, when's the right time to do it? This is such a new area, it's such a new area. Mm-hmm. So we're just sort of being pragmatic about how we step into all of these pieces.
That's fair. That's a fair way to come about it, because naturally you can't just put it all out there in the open all at once unless you're planning to use an already existing blockchain like Ethereum or things like that.
Totally. And, I'll say that, for those who are familiar with sort of blockchain terms, there's a lot of things those in the know. Exactly. In the know. Yeah. Exactly. Like what, there are some concepts and things that are just kind of complex and inaccessible. Like, again, if you're in the know, gas fees and private keys and these kind of concepts are kind of a staple in Ethereum and, public chains. Right. And they're very complex. And, when you're playing a game, I don't want to be dealing with that stuff. I just want to play a game and have fun and, with my friends. And so, for us, it's not necessarily about the technology. We didn't want to just put technology in people's face and be like, hey, this is cool, this is new, and, enjoy it or else. We wanted to make it about the experience, right? We wanted to go, hey, this allows us to do something cool that we think will be fun for gamers. And so what that meant is that, we don't want to just throw everything in a kitchen sink at people and just hope that they understand it and hope that they think it's as cool as we do. First and foremost, we got to have a great game that people want to play.
Of course. So is there going to be a public ledger for Blanko's Block Party, or is that going to come in the future when you guys have made the blockchain decentralized?
So what we're doing is, we're going to be focusing on keeping our private chain as scalable as possible. Like I said, over time, it may become more decentralized, but the goal will always be to keep it thin and light, and scalable. Having said that, there are power users who really value public chains. And so we've already announced that we do plan to have what we call on-off ramps launching soon, where players can take their NFTs out of our ecosystem and onto Ethereum, which I think is awesome. Again, I've been excited about these kind of concepts for years now, and I think the Ethereum ecosystem and all the stuff that's going on with NFTs is really fascinating, but also really important. And so, the way we look at it is, if you're a gamer and you don't care about blockchain and any of that stuff, just come play the game. Just come play. You don't need to worry about whether it's a private chain or public chain. You don't need to care about any of those things. And by the way, all the items that you're getting in the game, they're NFTs. So if you choose to sell them, you can. And in fact, we've got a marketplace that you can sell them on. You don't even have to worry that they're NFTs. You're just selling your game items. But, for those who are, starting to get more up to speed with blockchain, and those who are, maybe power users when it comes to the crypto space, we give them the options to be able to take their stuff and put it on the public chains, keep it in their wallets. Some people, who know what private keys are and are comfortable with those things, really care about being able to, that this is the part of true ownership that's important to some people, to be able to say, hey, I can take it out of the ecosystem. I can hold it to myself. I can sell it wherever I want. We love those kind of concepts. But again, we do have it coming on the horizon. For us, again, it's just a matter of like taking steps towards these bigger concepts.
Okay, I like that. That's a really good answer. So this is a question that I came across on Reddit when I was doing my research for this episode. So, for example, I've been playing Blankos for a while, and I just make a ton of levels with just a bunch of explicit images and schweens and all sorts of fantastic things for adults, and I get banned. What happens to my NFTs at that point? Can I sell them? Are they gone forever? What happens at that point?
Yeah, hey man, I don't actually know. I don't actually know what our policies are on this, so I don't want to misspeak, because our community team and our CS team is going to yell at me. But here's what I say: if you're going to come in and be an a-hole,
And make a-holes.
Yeah, and make a-holes and schwings. Is that what you said?
Schween.
Schweens. Then I'm not going to feel too bad for whatever happens to you.
Okay, that's a fair enough answer. That's a fair enough answer.
At the end of the day, we're building a game. Yes, true ownership is important. We're building a game, and we want it to be a good experience for everybody. This is one of those things. The question you've asked is actually one of those areas that is, kind of been, that's been a challenge. If we were making a traditional game, all of these kind of questions would be easy to answer. But we're bringing in these concepts that are new, and as a team, we're going, man, we have to solve these things for the first time ever. Like, nobody's ever solved these things. We can't look to anybody else and say, we'll do it that way, or there's no best in class way to do these kind of concepts. And you'll run into challenges like that. We've run into many over the years where it's like, wow, well, these kind of conflict with each other, in a regular game we would ban you, but then what happens to your NFTs? That's not true ownership, and what I will say on that is they're very complicated problems that we spend a lot of energy thinking through all the edge cases and trying to figure out. And again, we're the first ones ever to be tackling this on a mass market level. But we do tend to lean back on our mass market gaming experience, a traditional gaming experience, because again, at the end of the day, if you have a game full of a-holes and schweens, like maybe there's a group of people that really will enjoy playing that, but that's not the kind of game we're making.
I mean, Second Life does exist. They can just go do it there.
Exactly. Yeah, definitely. I've accidentally. Yes, we won't.
It is a dark place.
It is a dark place. Yes, where. Yeah.
So, do you guys plan on giving resources to better explain blockchain technology, NFTs, and all the whole works to better educate your audience and expand it to those who don't know about it?
Yeah, I don't feel like I'd say yes and no. We don't feel like the urge to really sort of educate people on blockchain. Again, we wanted to create an experience where you don't really need to care, right? Like, if you're playing Call of Duty multiplayer, you don't care if it's hosted on AWS or Google Cloud, right? Like, you don't, and in fact, you don't need to be educating people on what AWS is to play a multiplayer game, right? So we kind of look at blockchain in the same way. We don't really need to educate you on the technology. It's there if you want to, if you want to learn it yourself, you can go ahead and do that. But what we do want to sort of educate people on is this concept of true ownership, of being able to own the items and what that means to you as a player. And it's been great because we've actually seen people pick up on it very quickly. These concepts of that we've put into Blanko's, this, again, serial numbers on these items that you buy, the limited supply. These kind of things exist in the physical collector world. And we've seen collectors and gamers who come in and go, I collect stuff. I know how this stuff works. And it's we've seen people get it quite quickly and go, in fact, one of the things that's kind of been amazing to see is that, if you play Blankos and you get a Blanko, it comes boxed. So, in the physical vinyl toy world, I buy vinyl toys. They come in a box, and part of the excitement is opening the box. That's, that's definitely the nerd in me. And then you've also got the dilemma of, do I keep it boxed and mint so it doesn't get all dusty, or do I put it out on display, right? Like, that's part of the experience. So we wanted to bring this into the digital world, that whole thing, and so your item in the digital world comes boxed, and you have to then open it to play with it. And what we've seen is a lot of players get to it and go, wait a minute. So if this is an NFT, that means I own it. And if I own it, that means I can sell it later. So do I open it and level it up because I think it's going to be more valuable that way? Or do I keep it in the box and mint because I think it's going to be more valuable that way? And we've seen people go, wait a minute, you know what? I'm going to go buy another one. And I'm going to keep one box. And I'm going to keep one, and I'm going to open one. And so again, it's sort of, people are getting it. and we've seen people sort of like adjust their playing and their behaviors as a result, and because they're going, wait a minute, I can make money off of this. This stuff that I'm buying isn't just stuff I'm going to delete later. I can actually sell it, and I'm now thinking, there's other dimensions of decision making now involved. And to me, what I get excited about most with all of this stuff, and this is me as a personal gamer, speaking here, is that, I'm kind of personally, not a huge fan of loot boxes. It's just, I want that skin, that
give it to me.
Just give it to me. Yeah. And, in our world, if you had loot boxes and, let's say we don't, but let's say you did have loot boxes, any item that you got from those loot boxes that you didn't want, you could just sell instead of it just clogging up your inventory and get some of your money back, which is kind of cool. But in our world, what we're getting excited about is that let's make economies fun. Let's make game economies fun again. Let's make it, or fun. Fun. I don't know if they were ever fun. So, let's just make them fun. Let's create.
Well, EVE Online is fun. It's all.
Oh, yes. There you go. That's an example, right? So there have been moments of this in the past. So, let's make economies fun where players feel good being a part of it, that they're not just sort of sinking their time and money in without any kind of, opportunity to benefit from it, outside of just playing the game. So for us, I get excited, like just creating an economy that people feel good being part of. Like, it's not just, hey, I'm going to go play the game. Then I go over to this part and they try and take all my money. It's like, let's create some cool, fun ways for people to be part of it. And we're seeing that play out really well. I mean, gamers, again, are getting in and they're going, wait, I have some more decisions to make. That's kind of cool. I'm going to keep it boxed. I'm going to open it. I'm going to level it up. I'm going to sell it. That's cool.
Well, that's all the questions I have for you today. Is there anything you want to share with our audience before you go?
I would just say, we're super excited to be at this milestone. Early access. We were really excited to be able to show everybody what was going on at E3 and where we're at. This is, we're out in brand new sort of terrain here. Leading the charge on NFTs and AAA games. And I think there's a lot of sort of with what's happened recently in the NFT space. I get a lot of questions. Why are JPEGs selling for so much money? And I go, well, you know what? That stuff's going to go away. NFT, the future of blockchain and NFTs is not JPEGs. And in fact, what we believe is that, for us, it's about NFTs that are playable. Items in the gaming world have always had value. Nothing to do with NFTs and blockchain. They have value because of the great games that they're a part of. And what we want to do is we want to allow players to just tap into that. So for those who have sort of seen all the craziness around NFTs, just ignore that stuff. Come play our game at blankos.com.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Rudy, for being on the show. It was a pleasure. It was a great conversation. And have a great night.
Thanks for having me.